Hey YouTube, welcome to the video on my honest thoughts for Hazard. Now, I'm recording this a little bit early in the morning, so I might sound a little bit sleepy and a bit here and there. Apologies about that, but that out of the way, let's start talking about Hazard. I really like Hazard. I'm actually wrong about some of the things I said to him initially when I picked him up. I realized that this character actually has a much higher skill ceiling than I had initially given him credit for. So that's on me, but on paper, sometimes his gameplay style can be reduced to something that you could consider very boring. Like it can go either way. Some at one moment you're playing him like this very hyper fast dive tank that's a little bit all over the place all the time. Other times you don't ever have an opportunity for that, and you're just kind of wasting your time standing there trying to block bot and pray to God that an opportunity opens up. So what do I like about Hazard? What do I dislike about Hazard? Let's start talking about that. First of all, I want to talk about Hazard's abilities. Now, I'll talk about the goods and the bads. First of all, I do want to talk about his primary weapon, the Bone Spear. My problem mostly with Hazard is actually with the Bone Spear. The Bone Spear, the primary weapon, feels very inconsistent. There's moments where this weapon feels like it does a lot of good damage, and then there's other moments where the weapon just feels so useless and inconsistent. Like the enemy is like 1 HP and I'm trying to shoot them with this thing and they just escape repeatedly. I don't know why the spread feels so weird or bad, or maybe it's just me, but like I don't know. I've seen a lot of other people say that too. Like his spread on the weapon feels really bad. So I don't know. Maybe if they just tighten up the spread or make the bullets or projectiles on it work a little bit differently, I think that would help a lot, because I do feel like that's where his weakness is. He also just sucks at poking people down. Like he just sucks at that. He doesn't even have the kit to really stand around and poke at anything. You kind of really just want to either dive or just disengage and wait things out and then dive and then disengage. So he's very active in regards to that. Now moving over to his abilities. So we got the primary weapon on the way. Moving over to his abilities. Number one, I want to start with the Doomfist block that he has, which is called the Spike Guard. So this is when he puts up his arm in front of him, he's blocking damage. Anybody in the cone in front of you will be taking damage from the homing spikes, and he's regenerating ammo. Now, in my personal opinion, I like this ability. I like what it has to offer. But if I'm not gonna lie, I would really appreciate it if Blizzard took the damage from the homing spikes and put it into the Bone Spur, and they could like just shift some power, because I don't like the fact that there is so much damage in the homing spikes. I understand that it's meant to like help push people back, because Hazard can be caught very very easily. So they need to like they're probably like we're thinking like, okay, well, what can we do to kind of have kind of discourage people from sometimes pushing Hazard all the time. So the homing spikes was probably the idea over here. But I do think that he doesn't necessarily need it to be as powerful as it is right now. Against armored characters, it feels really useless. Like using this the spike card as a damage source against tanks is useless. But using it to follow up against anybody that's taken a little bit of damage, or like using it to complement a dive with your Genji or Tracer, Echo, Sombra, anybody like that. Oh my god, it can unironically actually feel like a good source of damage. Hell, we even had a challenge I did on the live stream where I said, what if I unbound my left click and just use the spike guard and the jump as my source of damage, and it actually worked out very well. Don't do that challenge though. It's you're soft throwing. I just did it for the content. Anyways, moving over to his other ability, we have the Violent Leap. Now, this is where he jumps forward, and if you activate the shift again or you use the melee, he is going to do a very high damaging slash. Now, I feel like a lot of people don't understand that actually the biggest source of his damage, the highest burst damage he does, is actually in this slash. And it also knocks people back, so you can use it to like even counter a dive. So like Winston's coming in, you can like jump up to his location and then like boop him away. Like there's a lot of like like there's a lot of skill ceiling to this ability, which makes it very fun to use. Now the leap on it is a bit awkward. Like he doesn't go that far, he doesn't go that high. He's always a little bit here and there, and it does turn people off just a little bit, because if we're not used to something like that, like it just feels like a clunkier Winston jump. And that's pretty much all I have to really say about the Violent Leap. That it feels like a more clunkier Winston jump, and you're meant to use it to close short distances or to just dive on a target and delete them. Finally, for his final ability before we move over to the ultimate, is called the Jagged Wall. This is where the spiked wall comes up. It damages and knockbacks on nearby enemy. Now, as much as Blizzard wants to promote this like a second May wall, if you try to use it as a second May wall, it really doesn't work out for you, because this thing does boop people away, and that can be a huge detriment. The best way to use this wall is to create a defensive barrier, like a Ryan barrier for yourself, to nullify damage if you're caught in the open, or to help your team pass through a choke. Seriously, like, do not try to use this as like a second main wall. There's areas where you can definitely use it as a second main wall, but honestly, in testing, in scrims, it just sometimes backfires more often than not. So that's just my personal opinion. I would like to hear how you guys are using Jagged Wall. Jagged Wall has a very, very high skill expression. It also latches onto walls. It moves people around. You can definitely do lots of creative things with it. Again, I just wish, like the May Wall, I wish we could select, like we would get the highlights that where it's going to go, select where we're gonna put it, and then apply rather than just randomly throw it like a Baptiste lamp. So that's just my personal opinion. Like, I feel like that would have really helped in terms of consistency in being able to set up like dives and engagements, because like the E can feel really inconsistent sometimes in the way you want to use it. It can suck. Like, the safest way to use it, like I said, is to just throw it down at the floor, create the barrier in front of you, and just not take damage in case your right click is down. Because you do not have any other way to not take damage, right? And this guy, he's a very big tank. His hitbox is huge. It's very easy to shoot him down. He does have a lot of armor, but it doesn't always help him all the time. Moving over to his ultimate, finally, it is downpour, so he rains down a torrent of spikes and immobilizes enemies. Now, personally, when I saw this ultimate in the showcase and in the trailers and everything, this is what I was worried about the most. But honestly, it's actually really not that bad of an ultimate. There's a good amount of counterplay where, yes, he can catch you, he can stun you. However, you can still shoot him down and you could still make some counterplays. I don't think the ultimate's that bad. The window to also escaping the ultimate is fairly reasonable, and with the amount of mobility creep in the game, it's really not that hard to escape. Like, it's a lot of people are able to react in time. Even in quick play, the casuals are able to react in time to run away. So setting up the downpour, you have to be a little bit smart, bait out some cooldowns and abilities, and then go in with it. It's a good ultimate. I really, really like it. And yeah, overall, his kit is very fun. There's a lot of skill ceiling to pretty much like everything. Maybe I would say the only area where there's like no, next to no skill ceiling is pretty much his spike guard. You're just meant to use it to reduce the damage. Maybe, you can even use it to actually secure some kills sometimes. So outside of that, the violent leap, the wall, the downpour, like, very, very high skill ceiling in all of them. Then finally, of course, he's the tank, the first ever tank who can climb walls. Honestly, he really doesn't climb that high. It's almost negligible. Like, it unless you're on certain maps that have like short walls and everything, it feels useless. Like, and also because he's so big, it's just pointless. You're delaying the inevitable. At least in my experience, like, it feels very, very useless. You can use it to set up some dives, but or to even like escape in, again, like I said, in certain maps. Like, for example, I had a good experience with it in Route 66, but then trying to use it in some other bigger like maps, it just didn't work out. It really wasn't the best situation to be in with him. So it's a bit situational, but it's like fine. It's not a broken passive to have on him. It works. Now, what do I think he's broken? Do I think he's OP? Like, what do I think about him as a whole? I think he's fine. I think he's okay. I think we're in a spot where we need to slowly put him into ranked and then see how things go. I don't think he needs any buffs whatsoever. But if they did want to buff him, again, I practically put my hands together and I beg the balance team, do not create a Juno 2.0 situation with the way you change his power or whatever. Put the power from the spike guards' homing spikes damage into the bone spur, and allow spike guard to maybe, like, um I don't know, like, it could stay up a little bit, it could regen ammo faster. So the lethality of the character is the strength and not the fact that they could just stay alive forever. So that's basically my only prayer, that if they were to approach the character, I don't think they need to buff him. I think he's okay. I would just maybe look at the bugs, because his wall climb is very buggy. It's the worst wall climb in the game. I think they designed this wall climb completely new because it is so buggy. It's insane. And then number two, I would really like if they just looked at making the bone spur, his primary weapon, feel a little bit better, because it does feel really awkward sometimes. Sometimes it feels really good. Other times it's just completely shut down. It honestly reminds me of Roadhog's old shotgun. So that's pretty much my thoughts on Hazard. Everybody, I don't know if he's gonna move the meta, and I know Blizzard said that this is the first dive and brawl hybrid tank, and I don't know, like, they've been saying this type of stuff. They said Ramatra was the first ever tempo tank. None of these things make sense. This guy is a, what I would like to call, basically what Diva has become now. He's a defensive dive tank where he wants to control space, pull back and then push in with his dive. So he's a very specific niche type of dive character. He's not going to be the type of character you kind of want to like play and force everywhere unless you're like running into a mirror. Not to mention, I hate to say it, but man, this guy is easy to counter. Like, there's so many things that he just falls apart to. It's very, very sad in my personal opinion. Doomfist ruins his life. A good diva can ruin his life. Mauga destroys him. Orisa runs him over. Ryan and Ram, I would say, is maybe like a good skill matchup, but Ram and Ryan, if they bait out and make you waste your cooldowns, they just run you over. Roadhog versus Hazard can be a good skill matchup. Sigma versus Hazard could be a good skill matchup. The Winston matchup can also be a skill matchup. Hazard's pretty decent into ball, at least in my experience. And then the Zarya matchup is just so Zarya favorite, it's crazy. So even just from the tank to tank battle, it can be really like scary. But then you come down to supports, and oh my god, like Ana can ruin your life. Zenyatta can ruin your life. It can, like, these two supports are the standouts to who can ruin your life a lot. Although at the same time, Hazard does like having Ana on his team as well. Moving over to damage characters, he really loves all the dive characters, the brawl DPS. So Reaper, Mei, Echo, Genji, Sombra, Tracer, Venture. He loves having and moving around with these type of characters. However, when he's getting countered, the DPS characters that do counter him are characters like Bastion, Echo, even Genji does a pretty good job. Hans is good at it. Junkrat destroys him. Farah completely runs him down. Reaper just shreds him. Like, it's like he fits the perfect hitbox for Reaper to get in every pellet, and Torbjorn can mark him really well. Sim's not that good into him. Sombra can also really annoy him. I wouldn't necessarily say she can make his life a living hell. The insane amount of armor he has does allow him to zone out Sombra more than Sombra can zone out him. um and then I would say that, yeah, like against Widowmaker, he's also pretty trash because he just doesn't have the verticality or any form of barrier to really slow the Widow down. So he has a lot of counters in the game. He has a lot of counters in the game. I would say this is probably the first time, like, a character that they've hit the mark with where it's a very, very, very healthy character, and most importantly, it's a very, very high skill ceiling character. And yes, he has elements of brawl in him. He has the elements of dive in him. I guess we can call him a bit of a hybrid tank, but I would say he's kind of like Diva, where it is a dive tank, but sometimes you have to play brawly playstyle. Other times, when your team is ready to follow up with you, you can just go in and do everything. That's the one thing I perhaps don't like about Hazard, is his dive playstyle is so team focused. Like, you need your Genjis and Tracers to run in with you. This guy by himself is not that good at securing kills unless a lot of things go right. But if even the slightest amount of healing is triggered on the target that he's on because of the poor spread on the main weapon, it's a nightmare to then confirm that kill. Anyways, everybody, that's my honest thoughts on the new guy Hazard. Let me know what you think about Hazard down below, and we will be releasing a guide for Hazard coming tomorrow. So I will see you guys in that video.